Hi, Stephanie. I'm looking forward to working with you and seeing what we have to offer one another. I always think it's great to bounce off ideas, and I think that we all of us are trying to learn how to do craft analysis, which is why our professor's having us peer feedback. And so we're going to learn a lot from one another doing this. So first things first, just to help you follow along with me here, I kind of did some comments in the side area. And so the first technique, that you come up with is short and long sentences. And you bring up that the short sentence allow us to kind of gather more detail. And I say over here that short sentences in writing can help bring out more important information when surrounded by longer sentences, because longer sentences do have more detail, but when we see the shorter sentence, we kind of zoom in on that. And in picture books, I think that's kind of important because there's not a lot of detail and space going around, so we want to zoom in on all the details we can, which I think is great, and I think that's what the author wanted us to do, is to zoom in on those shorter sentence information. And then which you use as this first area here, and then your second one, you talk about foreshadowing with the word yet, and for me, I think it was more, not necessarily a flashback, but it was alluring us to think about, to relate to it in our own situations. And I think for us that kind of helped us realize that things had happened in the past, that we get a sense that every time his uncle comes, that he's always singing a present. This isn't the first time. He sent him a present before his birthday, and the birthday before that, and the birthday before that. So I think this is giving us details that this isn't the first time that's happened, but everyone's different, and that's the way it was for you. But for me, it was more of looking to the past, if that makes sense. And then in your third one here, you talk about transition, which is this sentence right here. And it is a transition sentence talking about his birthday present, and then it's all of a sudden he's at school, so it does give us a transition into what might be happening next. And even in the comments here, I said it does seem to be a transition sentence, but how is this important to the story if the author rarely uses transition sentences? So because I don't know what the rest of the story is, it was hard for me to see the transition, but I do agree that it is a transition sentence. And then you talk about unrelated information. And how that gives the unrelated sentences give us more detail about the characters, which I do agree with. And I said because this is a picture book, short, simple details need to be used, and many picture book authors do this because there's not a lot of room or a lot of time to put in a lot of detail. So those short, unrelated sentences do give us that, and that's when you talk about, he ate the cheeseburger and he was eager to learn. And then you talk about visualization, and I just put that you could probably kind of omit this kind of thought up here, because it may be the right title for you, and I definitely agree that it is visualization. And also up here, I put that you probably should omit this question right here, because you kind of say it twice. Do I need to know this? I don't think you're repeating yourself. But I agree that it is visualization, and I know that some teachers, when they read a picture book, they don't always hold it up when they read it. They read it first and they flip around the pictures. And I think for kids, this does allow them to use their imaginations, because they don't see the picture first. They have to use those details to kind of think about, okay, he was in a jar, and then now he's in a sink. So it does allow him to use their visualization skills, their imagination. And then you talk about the repetition of information. I think that's actually called repeating details in our article. I think that's what our article calls it, but it is right. It is the repeating of information. And you talk about how Alfonso is growing, and now he's getting bigger and bigger, and the author is reiterating that this thing is growing really, really big, and he is repeating that through this story. And as I said, I'm not sure if this is important, but you put in instead of is, and I know when we're typing things fast, we can always go back and look at it. You did that down here too. And And then your last one here, you talk about foreshadowing again, using a different character to talk about what's going to come, which is when you talk about his teacher way down here, that Alphonse is too big to be an ordinary frog, stop bring him to school, and it may give us more insight to what is to come. Okay, if he's not a frog, what is he going to be? It is trying to get us to think about what's going to happen in the future, figure out what's going on. So I agree that could be a form of foreshadowing. Overall, down here I put some comments that I think your comments make sense, and it's difficult to follow some of your thought patterns because your technique over here is not right next to the underlined information you're giving, and I know that's difficult to kind of do. So I said I didn't know if maybe you could put like number them over here and then put a number beside the picture down here based on what's going on, or if you could color code it in some way, because for me it was just difficult to kind of follow because I had heaps going up and down just to figure out what was going on. But I said the story looks like it might even be kind of difficult to analyze because there isn't much variety in the story or its structure. It does, however, make me want to go and find the book so I can read it and figure out what's going on. It sounds interesting. That maybe, you could even use it in a science theme unit and within some lesson plans within the classroom. So I think it sounds interesting. But overall, I think you did very well and good job.